So this is a collaboration between the ACS, which is the Seventh-day Adventist Steenberg Welfare Department. So they help with a lot of community outreach work. They give food and so to the community. And Steenberg SDA's Health Ministries Department. So Misha is the leader of the ACS. I'm the leader of the Health Department. And we are collaborating to help people become knowledgeable about how to use medicinal plants and also vegetables and fruit as medicine. So welcome everybody. If we can maybe just have a short prayer. Okay. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you so much for everyone that has come today. I pray that the Holy Spirit will go before us. Let them see you in everything that we are doing today. Bless those that cannot be here or those that are still on their way. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So I want to start off. With just explaining a little bit about holistic medicine and so forth. In the book, Volume 4, Testimonies, page 138, it says, "The first great business of your life is to be a missionary at home." So we need to be our own missionaries in our homes. And we can do that through helping our families, medicinally, food-wise. So knowledge is power. So when we gain these bits of knowledge, we can then impart it to our family by getting them as healthy as possible. Because when you are healthy, you can be of better service to God through what you do, to your community through what you do, and to the rest of your family or anybody else that you come in contact with. So health is key for anything that we want to do in our lives. So you can become your own stewards of your family and be missionaries in your own home by imparting this knowledge and using it on your family to help them. So the holistic approach to medicine basically is when you're focusing on the person as a whole, not just the problem that they have. And it's also where you focus on the mind, the body, and the spirit. So it's a holistic approach, because you need to trust in God. You need to have a good, clear mind, and you need to have a healthy working body. Even if you don't want to help people or that's not your thing, but just to do what you need to do on a daily basis. Health, if you don't have your health, then your whole life is upside down. So like they say, health is wealth. It really is. So start using these tools to become healthy and to help those around you to be healthy. So we also want to get to the root cause of a disease. You don't want to have, for example, a sore that has developed. Now you just put a plaster on it. That's not fixing the problem. That is helping the problem get better, but it's not fixing it. So the main aim of holistic medicine is to get to the root of the problem. And normally the root of the problem is something else that lies within your body. Maybe it could be a bacterial infection in your blood, or stress, or anything like that could then manifest itself through this little pimple thing, sore, or whatever that you've now discovered. And so you're treating it with, creams and plasters and whatever, but you're not getting to the root. So holistic medicine is about getting to the root of the actual problem so that you can nip it in the bud and stop it from having other effects as well. And natural medicine provides alternatives to Western medicine. So that is exactly how Western medicine works. It fixes the issue, but it doesn't fix the problem that causes the issue. So you'll find that you will start taking medication after medication, because now you'll get the side effect of the one thing. Now you need more medication for another problem that has started due to this medication that you now started taking, or you're taking the medication but It's just helping that problem, but you're not getting better, so to say. Whereas natural holistic medicine, it fixes the problem, but it also comes with secondary metabolites. So nature is so beautiful that the active ingredient is in the plant, for example. And for example, if you take something that like you have a chest infection or something, and you take a herb that helps with chest infections, it not only will help the chest infection, because that's the main active's duty, but it has secondary metabolites, which means it's got almost, every plant has almost 200 secondary metabolites. So those 200 side chemicals, so to say, can actually help other problems in the body, either that you never knew you had or whatever the case may be. So for example, if you're taking, let's say, wild lettuce, for example, it is known to be nature's morphine in that it helps with pain. But when you take it, it also can help with sleeping problems. So that is the type of thing that comes with herbal medicine or plant medicine or natural medicine. You know, it has secondary things that can also be of benefit to you. So it depends on how you use it, but once again, knowledge is power. So today we're going to focus on a few of the types of natural methods that you can use, but I just want to mention what the main methods are. So you get infusions, you get decoctions, you get tinctures, you get poultices, you get salves and balms, ointments, you get essential oils, and you get capsules and tablets, and then you get syrups. Those are the main categories and different things that you, or ways that you can use natural medicine in. But obviously, the different methods are used for different things that you require. Now, Psalms 104 verse 14 says that God gave herbs for the service of man. So exactly like I explained, one herb can have so many different actives that can help with so many different things. That is why, for example, if you have a problem, and let's say you're using cayenne pepper for your problem, it will help that problem, but if it doesn't work for that specific problem, you can try something else for the problem, because different plants do work for the same problem, but it doesn't work for everybody, because all our bodies are all different, they react differently to different things. So that is also how nature works. It's not only, you can only use that for heartburn. No, there's other things you can also use if that doesn't work. Or if you don't have that specific thing in your home, but you do have this, that can also be used for whatever your ailment is. So that is the beauty of natural medicine. So now I'm going to talk about what each different type is. Infusions, that basically is where you are making a tea. So you are steeping your herbs, for example, if you're using herbs, or if you're using onions or ginger or whatever type of vegetable, you are steeping it in water, which means you are letting it stand for a while so that it can draw the actives out of the plant. And this, you use the infusion method normally for things like the petals and the leaves and the light stuff of the plant. So that you would use an infusion. Then you get a decoction. Now a decoction is also like making the tea, but you are boiling it. And this you would normally use with your stems, barks, roots, those harder things that it's harder to extract from. And so you would boil it. So what happens in that situation for both infusions and decoctions is that the water plays a very vital role in that it helps break down the cell wall of the plant, and so that the metabolites and all the actives in the plant is more easily extracted. It also then releases these compounds, and most of the compounds that are found are called alkaloids, flavonoids, and glycosides. So alkaloids basically stimulate your organs in the body, like your central nervous system. Flavonoids are antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, and those types of things. And glycosides are also your anti-inflammatories, your antioxidants, your antihypertensive, anti-diabetic. So glycosides are basically all your anti this. So it depends on what you're using. So the glycosides will then be extracted from the plant for whatever, if you have diabetes or whatever, it is the glycosides in there that will be released from the plant to help your diabetes. So that is basically how it works. And then you get tinctures. Now tinctures, it's when you use alcohol or ethanol or vinegar or glycerin to draw out the active ingredients, because that is stronger, so it draws out more of the active ingredient than water does. Ethanol you would only maybe use in a lab setting, if you are doing experiments or so forth, because you don't want to ingest ethanol-based extractions. But normally, if you're making your own tinctures, you would use the alcohol tinctures. If you don't want to use alcohol, the alternative to alcohol is glycerine, or vinegar. But vinegar also has other components that it might add to it. So depending on what it is that you want to get out of the tincture, that will determine what method of extraction you use. Right? So most times tinctures, it's either going to be your glycerine if you don't do alcohol, or your alcohol. Those are the main ways to use it. Now the reason why most people, or what most herbalists use alcohol or tinctures is because it has a very long shelf life. It can be anything from 2 to 5 years, sometimes 10 years, it depends. So because you are using things over and over, or you want to store it for a long time, that is the best preservation method for this. And also the longer it stands, the more it extracts from the plant. Then you get poultices. So poultices basically is your soft mushy stuff, because you would either chop it finely or crush it in a mortar and pestle, for example. So it's moist masses of herb basically that you would put on the area topically, because the ones we spoke about before is what you ingest. But now a poultice is what you put on. So for example, if your elbow is sore, you have joint pain or whatever, you would make a poultice and put ginger, grated ginger, you would put that onto your elbow, and then a poultice you then cover with a piece of cloth and maybe some cling wrap over that in case the wetness or the moisture seeps out and you don't want that. Salves and ointments, that is also used topically. So what you would need with salves and ointments are a carrier oil and some beeswax, and then obviously you can either use some essential oils, or you can use tinctures, or you can use actual active extracts that you just took out, either by crushing or grating or something, that you can then also use in your ointment. And then you get your essential oils. So essential oils is a bit tricky, because most people don't understand how to use it, and how you make essential oils, or at least how you extract essential oils, is through distillation. So basically you're steaming it, and then you sort of capture the steam, and then it goes through a process of hot and cold and so forth, and then it separates the oil from the water. So that ultimately you can just be left with the oil. But that oil is extremely concentrated. It's the most concentrated form of the plant extract. And so because it's so concentrated, it's very, you need to use it with caution. Now, most essential oils you should never put directly on your skin, because that can cause liver damage and other problems. So don't ever put essential oils directly on your skin. Always put it into a carrier oil, and because it's so strong, you normally only use 1 or 2 drops, unless a recipe or something requires you to use more, then you use more. But be very careful with how you use essential oils. Now, carrier oils can be anything from coconut oil, olive oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil, carrot oil. Those are carrier oils. If you don't have that and you really need to make a salve or something, then you can use your fish oil, but preferably not because of the type of chemicals that it has in them. So rather stick to your good fats, your good oils, which is your coconut and your olive. Those are the best to use. You can also use almond oil, depending on what it is that you want to make. So if you are going to use essential oils, always put it into some form of carrier oil. You can also put it into Vaseline if you don't have anything else, or castor oil. That's also a very good thing that you can use. So those are basically how you work with essential oils. Now you get capsules and tablets that you can also make. You can buy a raw, it looks like plastic, you know, your tablets that you have. But it's actually, you can buy the vegetable-based ones or the plastic-based ones. It's not actually plastic, it's, hello, welcome. So basically, you can make your own tablets that way, and that is normally for people who can't handle the taste of herbs. Now, herbs can be really strong and bitter, so lots of people don't like the taste of herbs. So that is one option that you can do. With tablets, you basically you extract all the water and you make it into a paste, and then you put it into whatever type of format. You can roll it into a small ball, or you can, if you have a tray or something that's got small little tablet thingies, then you can use that. So that's, and then you just either put it in the oven or you let it stand and dry until it hardens. That's also how you can make tablets if you don't like the other ways of using herbs. And then you get your syrups. And your syrups you normally make with honey or sugar. And this is normally also to mask the taste, but the honey is also a natural preservative, and it has a lot of medicinal properties of its own. Sugar you would only use if you don't have honey. So most people don't have honey because honey is quite expensive, but they can then use sugar. Brown sugar would be best, or cane sugar, but whatever you have, use, because it won't be as effective as the honey, but it will still do the job. So there is ways of, you know, working around these types of things, and the main point is to use what you have, but you need to understand how these things work and how to put them together. Okay, so there are different formats of herbs. You would get your fresh herbs, which you would pick from your garden like this. And then you would get your dried herbs. So this is after you've picked it. If you're into drying and herbal medicine yourself, you would then dry it out for a few weeks or put it in a warmer to dry out the moisture, so then it's just the active ingredients in the actual herb. Or you can make infusions and tinctures, which is what I explained earlier. That is also the best form of preservation, Dried herbs is ultimately the best, but you need to watch it carefully because you need to store it correctly. Because if you are going to just leave it open like that or in an open place, spiders and all kinds of things might get into it, and then that could then ruin or contaminate the herbs itself. So you need to be very careful with how you work with herbs. Always wash your hands before you do work with herbs, and use everything must be stirred out so that there's no way of there ever being contamination. So just be very careful when you are working with herbs. Always wash your hands before. Okay, so today's ingredients, well, the ingredients to make herbal medicine is normally your herbs, whether it's dried, fresh or whatever. Then it's your carrier oils, and I explained the different types of carrier oils that you get. It's also the beeswax. Beeswax is, this is beeswax, it comes in many different forms, but it is very difficult to get and quite expensive. With beeswax basically makes whatever you are making harder. Now beeswax also has its own medicinal properties as well. So beeswax is very good for skin conditioning. It also has skin healing properties. It also has preservation properties. So it is very good to use. But if you don't have beeswax, then you can just make an oil basically, because it will be fluid. Depending on what you use, if you use coconut oil and it's cooler temperatures, then it would be hard after you make your balm or salve or whatever. But in hot weather like this, it would be very liquidy. So just watch the containers that you use or put it in as well, if that's the route you're going. And most people would use that route because beeswax is expensive. Okay, then you get your sugar and your honey that you can also use, and obviously your alcohol for your tinctures, and your glycerine. And glycerine is also a really good preservative, and it has a lot of healing properties as well. Glycerine is a humectant, which means that it absorbs or draws moisture from all around it into wherever it is. And glycerine is, like I said, very healing. So for example, if you have ulcers or something, you just put glycerine on and it heals it. So glycerine is used in a lot of medication, if you didn't know. It's also used in beauty products because of its moisturizing properties. So like I said, it's a humectant, so it draws moisture. So it would, if there's a cream and there's glycerine in it, it would draw the moisture from the environment to the air and then lock it into your skin. So that's the beauty of glycerine and how that works. So it is nice. It depends on what the application is that you want to make. That will determine when and how you will use glycerine. For example, if you're making an ointment or a salve, you can put a little glycerine in there if you want it to be very moisturizing. But normally your carrier oils are very moisturizing already. The thickest carrier oil is your castor oil. So again, it depends on the application that you want to use it for. That will also determine what type of oil you will use as your carrier oil. Some are thicker, some are thinner. It's up to you how you want it to feel. And then your equipment that you would use would be your jugs, your glassware, your knives, your bottles. You can also use these types of things. You know, once you make yourself, it depends on how you want to store stuff. That will determine what you would also use as your equipment. Okay, so those are the general things that you need when making medicine. Now, the most important thing is, if you are getting herbs from somewhere, always wash it with bicarbonate of soda and water. Because you don't know if there's pesticides or any type of pollution that is stuck on the leaves. So you want that off, because that might also have detrimental health effects. Um, Pesticides is a very big problem, and what they've discovered through different types of studies is that pesticides in water, for example, um, can actually emasculate people or men. So they did a study in America with frogs, 7 frogs, and they exposed it to glyphosate, which is a common pesticide that they spray onto crops, especially crops that you get, store-bought crops. And 5 of the 7 frogs became female, and 2 of them were chemically castrated, and that is all due to the pesticide. So the chemicals and what your herbs are exposed to, because you also don't know what is sprayed in the air or just what is flying in the air, especially with these strong winds and so forth, that might land on your own garden. Even if you don't use pesticides and you only go the organic route, the natural route, these things are also on there. So if you're going to use it for a herbal remedy, then always try to wash it off with bicarbonate of soda, just to ensure that you are detoxing the plant, getting all heavy metals and everything else off there, so that it's completely safe. The only thing left is the actual active ingredients in the plant. So always be very careful, because everything that you put in your body affects your body in some way that you might not realize. Okay, so I'm going to start with how to make an infusion or a decoction. We don't have a little stove here, so we're not going to do a decoction. Decoction, like I said, is basically when you are boiling the thing. You can also boil any of the material in the water, but it's normally, the boiling method is normally used for those harder parts. So your stems, your roots, your barks, and so forth. Like if you're going to make, if you've got a headache or pain, you would boil some willow bark, because that is penicillin, basically. So for our decoction and infusion, normally we are going to use some mint and some ginger. So ginger is a root. You would normally boil it, but I'm just going to put slices in. So again, you would boil the water, or you can boil it in a microwave. This was boiled earlier, but I just want to...
Speaking about the willow tree, that box.
Yes, the willow tree, the bark. The bark is what penicillin is made from. So that helps with pain. So you can boil it. Okay, so I'm going to start off with cutting some ginger. So normally people would take the skin off. It's up to you. You can if you want to. The best way to peel the ginger is with a spoon, actually, because it gets all the curves and everything, and it takes the least bit of skin off, because you want as much ginger as possible. But if you peel it the normal way with a knife or peeler, you actually do cut a lot of the actual ginger off, and you don't want it. So some people prefer to have it as is. It has a bit more of a wild taste or a sandy type of taste. But wild is a better word. But it is up to you. Some people actually like that taste. So you would put it in, just so that you can see. So you would put it in something like that, and then peppermint. So if you have an upset stomach, this is the type of infusion that you would use. Peppermint is very good to calm the stomach down. If you have stomach cramps, it also helps with stomach cramps. So it basically helps a lot with your stomach area. And then ginger also helps with nausea. If you are nauseous and you have a tummy bug or something, ginger and peppermint would be really good, especially if you have cramps with your tummy bug. So you would just break the leaves off. You just want the leaves, you don't want the stem actually. And you know, peppermint always has a nice refreshing taste as well. So if you do this often, you would buy a stripper, and a stripper basically is a little wooden mechanism that you put on the top and you pull it down and it strips all the leaves off, makes it much quicker. And then you would just add your water. Whoops. And then you would cover it because you want to trap or you want to keep all of the essential oils and the active ingredients contained and infused into the water. So this you would let stand for about 10 to 15 minutes so that it can have time to seep and draw.
Can you use anyone peppermint spray?
Yes, it doesn't matter. Any type of oil can be used for stomach problems. Yeah.
A flux problem as well. My daughter's got a flux problem and somebody told her about that.
Yes, a reflux problem. What also helps with reflux is apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar with water, that helps a lot if you have heartburn and reflux. That helps a lot with that.
A little water.
Apple cider.
With water.
With water.
Yes. Not a couple.
Okay, so you would then either put it in this type of thing or you would just pour it into whatever type of jar and you would let it steep after your 10 to 15 minutes. You would then use a mesh or you can use cheesecloth to strain the plant material out so that you just have the actual decoction infusion tea. And that you can add a little honey with. If you are diabetic, I would advise not to use honey because honey could adversely affect your diabetes. But if you are diabetic, alternatives to honey is making your own date syrup. So date syrup is very good for diabetics. It's nice and sweet. It does not give a glycemic spike. That is why it is so good to use for diabetics. So all you do is you take your dates and you take the pips out, you can boil it, and then the mix until the mixture becomes thick, and that you can spread on a tray and put it in the oven. You can then make your sugar, or that mixture you can use as is and you strain whatever is left from the dates. Strain that out and just use the liquid, but it would be quite thick. That you can use as a syrup in your teas or whatever as a replacement. There's also a plant called the honey locust. So a lot of schools and a lot of places have this plant. It has like this spiraling thing that normally curves like that, right? You see it a lot everywhere, this brown pod. It looks like a bean pod hanging from trees. So in there is lots of little seeds or beans. So if you shake it, because they fall on the ground everywhere, so if you shake it, it has that rattling kind of sound. Now that is part of the carob family. That is called honey locust. That you can also use as a replacement for sugar. It is quite sweet, so because of the hard outer side, you first soak it in water. You would break it open, take the beans out, soak it in water, and then once it's soft, you scrape the insides out. That insides would then be the same consistency as dates, and you taste it, it's very sweet, yes? And so you can use the same process. You can either make the sugar by drying it out and then grinding it into a sugary powder, or you can use it as a syrup, as a replacement for sugar. Now the brown seeds can actually be used as a replacement for coffee, because there's no caffeine in it, but it has that coffee taste. So those seeds you can then put in your oven and you roast it, and then you grind it into a powder and you use it as coffee. It really is a very nice coffee alternative, and those trees you find everywhere. People just don't use it for
Honey locust.
honey locust. Honey locust. So they suspect that basically is what John the Baptist ate, because that is the honey locust tree. He didn't actually eat locust, but the honey locust is what he ate, and that is an actual tree that is very nutritious if you eat those pods. Okay, so the differences between an infusion and a decoction is that the method. So for the tea, as you can see, you would pour hot water and steep, but for the decoction, you would boil it in the water. The temperature, this is just hot water. That is simmering, boiling water. That is constantly boiling the active ingredients in the plants, right? And so for an infusion, you would let it stand for 5 to 15 minutes, depending on how strong you want the active to be. And then for a decoction, it would be 20 to 45 minutes that you would boil it. Also depending on what it is. So if it's a bark, it would take a lot longer to boil. But if it's a root or stem, it wouldn't take that long, depending on how thick the root is. And then for the plants, you would use, as I mentioned before, you would use for the infusion, you would use the leaves, the flowers. Sometimes you can use the stems, it depends on how hard it is, but that's basic. And the seeds, that is what you use in the infusion. And decoction, barks, roots, stems. Especially the harder it is, the more you would go decoction. But it is once again up to you. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make cough syrup. What you would need for cough syrup is honey. If you don't have honey, you can use sugar and onion. Okay, so onion has quercetin in it.
For example, can you use the red onion or what?
The scallion. The scallion has more medicinal properties. So it would be better to use that, but it is a lot more expensive than your normal onion. So most people would just have the normal onion. But the normal onion has a lot of medicinal properties as well. Okay? So the quercetin in there has antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant properties. So antimicrobial means that you can use it for any type of sickness, illness, infection, bacteria, virus. Antimicrobial means it's all of those things. And antifungal, anti-cancer, so it's got a lot of amazing properties. And then the honey is also an antioxidant. It's a great preservative. It has skin healing properties as well. So if you burn your finger or something and you don't have aloe, put honey on. It definitely will help with the burn. Also, if you don't have any type of cream or anything, if you have a cut or sore that is painful, put some honey on, it will heal. But honey is also used like glycerin in lots of facial skincare body products, because it also has softening agents, moisturizing agents, and healing obviously. So if you have skin problems, skin blemishes, honey can also be used. It's just sticky, but you know, it depends on if you're okay with that. Right, so you would chop your onion. I'm going to It's a bit small, so it depends on you. You can either chop it into rings if you have a bigger jar. And this is safe for children as well. So normally toddlers can't use normal cough mixture, but this is safe for kids, so for anybody actually. So you can cut it into strips, or you can chop it up finely. It all depends on you and how you want to use it. So because my bottle or jar is quite small, I'm not going to chop it up, but I'm going to cut it where it fits. Okay, so you would cover the base first, and then you would put a layer of honey over it. So honey is quite expensive. So only use honey if you can afford it. But if not, you can put a layer of sugar on. So you would cover the bottom layer like this, then you would put another layer on. Okay, then you put another layer on, and you put another layer of honey over that. And then you put another layer, and then more. And then you would close it and let it stand. Now, as time goes by, it will then start forming a thin liquid, and that thin liquid is the actual cough mixture. So this you could, like, depending on how quickly the honey extracts the active ingredients in the onion, it could take for an hour up to 24 hours. It depends on how much you've made also. But you will immediately see the syrup. It's very different to the honey. And you will then, once that is done, once it's just syrup left, you will then transfer it into another container and put it in the fridge. And you would use it like normal cough mixture. It really works amazingly. It helps with chest infections, it draws out the chest infection, and it helps with the cough itself.
Does the onion disintegrate completely?
No, the honey draws the active ingredients that's in the onion out.
Yes.
So it forms that liquid. So the liquid is left, then you still have the onion pieces. That's why you need to throw the liquid out.
Okay.
Yeah, you throw the liquid into a separate container, and that's your coffee. Because the onion syrup.
Yes. You can cut the onion smaller like we would. She's not that type that will cut it small. Ons name was alles kort, chop, 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 chop. And we put it in the jar.
Also just, yes, brown sugar is better than white sugar. Cane sugar is the best to use. Cane, but I don't know if anybody was able to find that.
I have two asthmatic compounds, and I always do that, and they helped me, but I never used it with honey, only with sugar.
Okay.
The first time I see her, you can use honey.
Oh, that's a wonderful testimony. So she has, I don't know if everybody heard, but she has two asthmatics in her family, And she also uses this, but she uses the sugar and it helps their chest. So thank you for that. That's a wonderful example about this
The onion, you put it in a plastic under your feet, then you rub the
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So the onion draws out whatever infection or bacteria that is in the body. Onion can be used not only for a chest infection but also other problems, other sicknesses or whatever. When my uncle had COVID, we chopped up onion, heated it, because when you heat it, it releases quite a few of the actives, in a cloth on his chest. And that drew out a lot of the cough and a lot of the infection. And it really helped amazingly. And that same onion you can reheat up to 2 days. Sometimes 3 depending. You'll see when it gets slimy then it's no longer fit for use. But you can gauge how long it will last.
Grated onion. With all that ingredient,
Yes, you can grate it.
Can you consume the onion with the onion?
Yes, if you want to, it's up to you. But if you just want the cough mixture, that is the method that you use. And that cough mixture will last up to a year if you put it in the fridge. Okay. So we'll do that and let it draw. Yeah, exactly. So like I said, it's antimicrobial, so you can use it for almost every problem, any problem, whether it's virus, bacteria, pain, whatever.
And it can also be very dangerous and poisonous if you leave the onion out and you
Yes.
don't cover it, because it pulls all the bacteria in there.
Yes.
So never use the
Exactly.
open onion after you use it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Onion is a drawer. Always cover the onion, but it also absorbs and draws out smells and mold in your fridge, whatever. So if that's the purpose you're using your onion for, you would put it in your fridge like that. But if not, cover it so that you can reuse it. Because onion can stay for quite a while once you cut it. Okay, so the next method, the last method that we will be doing is the actual ointment or salve. So today I'm going to use camphor. This is the camphor plant, and this is how good a camphor leaf can actually get. It's amazing. I actually can get bigger. So camphor has like little tiny prickles on the edge. Sometimes it can be a bit sore if you touch it, depending on how the prickles are, but generally it's fine. You can just walk around it. Camphor is one of the most amazing miracle plants. It's called the knitbone plant. Knitbone. Knit as in knitting and bone as in your bone. Because it literally can knit your bones back together. Because it has regenerative properties. So there are even stories of people that grew back limbs, fingers, arms from using camphor. Because camphor is that regenerative. It regenerates every type of cell. Whether it's bone, whether it's tissue, whether it's whatever, it can regenerate. So this is very good for healing sports injuries, broken bones and that type of thing. But it also has amazing wound healing properties because it's skin regenerative. You can use it for almost any type of topical problem. So this is really good to use for all kinds of skin ailments, whether it's eczema, psoriasis, sores, blisters, mosquito bites, some spider bites, and so on. So this can really be an amazing wound healer. So I just want to tell a little story. I had a toxic spider bite here. I don't know if you can see these marks. Okay, so I had a toxic spider bite, and I treated it with natural remedies. Okay, so I took oregano oil, not oregano oil, I took the oregano spice and I made an infusion and I drank that as my antibiotic because oregano is very, very strong. It's stronger than your normal antibiotic, 6 times stronger than your normal antibiotic. So it's extremely strong as an antibiotic. So you just need to be careful with how you use it because it is so strong. So I would drink that 3 times a day as my antibiotic. I made a bath, so I would bath my thing twice a day. In the bath, I put tea tree oil, oregano, and charcoal. And because charcoal absorbs all toxins, I also drank the charcoal. And then I bathed it in that. And then I made a poultice, as I mentioned before. Poultices is the actual mixture, the pulp of the plant basically, that you put directly onto the area. So, and the poultice was also oregano and charcoal and tea tree, and that's what I put on as a poultice, and then I put it up. So I did that wrapping twice a day, and I did the washing twice a day. Sorry, correction, I did the washing twice a day also. And I drank the tea 3 times a day. By day 3, it had these lesions, right? These like pus pimples that started, but it started drying. So I stood in the sun with it for a little while because vitamin D is very, very good for you and has amazing healing properties as well. I dried it out, and then I made a cream with comfrey and some other things, a wound healing cream, and I put that on. And now the marks are faded to this, but it was really bad and very ugly. And now it just looks not that bad. It's almost disappeared. So natural remedies really are amazing. Okay, so I'm going to now show you how to make that. I'm going to heat the beeswax because it takes quite long to make. So I'm just going to cut some slivers off. Maybe I must just grate it. It's really hard. So as I mentioned before, the reason why you use beeswax, yes, it also helps with the healing, but it basically hardens your thing so that it's not just an oily business that you are putting on, so that it's an actual cream or self type of consistency. You want the viscosity to be quite thick. The harder the better, because then it will last longer. Okay, so this is the grated beeswax. Anybody knows anyone that's selling beeswax, please let me know. Because it's very difficult to find. And it's quite expensive.
It comes from a bee's nest, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
So a byproduct of when bees make honey is
Yeah.
beeswax.
Okay. I know somebody's selling beeswax,
Beeswax?
but I don't know. I must ask her for the beeswax. I don't know what she's doing with it.
Because normally beekeepers,
Yeah.
they normally either just keep the beeswax or give it away. Because their main money is in the honey
Honey, yes.
and the propolis. propolis is also, it's like a pollen type of thing that the bees also produce, and that also has lots of healing properties. So whenever you see propolis in an ingredient, it is very healing. So I'm putting this in the microwave. How does this look? Time.
And then you just, and then stop.
Okay, thank you. Right, so now these are the different things that you can put in. My carrier oil that I'm going to use is coconut oil.
Because that is 11 minutes, my dear. 11 minutes.
Yes, but it takes a long time to melt. I don't know if there's no metal in there. I don't know why. Okay.
Just seconds.
Oh, you mean the time made it go crazy? Okay.
Put it up to 17.
Seems to be
Yeah.
right. So,
Now 2 minutes.
depending on how you want to,
Stop.
okay, so it seems to be a bit of a fail.
It's melted.
It's not melted at all.
Boiling water.
At the bottom,
And you don't have a bowl or something.
Oh.
Now I'm going to use
Is that the glass bowl? Is that?
Just a bowl so I can pour the hot water in and put that into the hot water. Okay, let me continue. Sorry about that drama. Right, so the other actives that you would use is your carrier oil, as I mentioned. So you would use some essential oils, like tea tree oil is a really good essential oil to use in almost any type of sulfur balm. It has antiseptic properties, antibacterial properties, wound healing and so forth. Then I'm going to put in some calendula. Like these are tinctures that I made quite a while ago. I made it in oil. So this is also a way to store your herbs. Is it?
Olive oil.
These infusions, sorry, not tinctures, these infusions are the main way to most herbalists store the plant-based material because you use the oil and not the plant. But if you want to, yeah, it depends on what your end use is. In tinctures, you would normally take a little bit of that, if it's alcohol for example, and put it into water and then drink, or however you want to use it. That you would normally consume, but these you don't consume. This you use topically when you do it with oil. And this lasts for years and years and years and years. Because the oil doesn't go off in this form.
What is the name of it?
So this is olive oil that I used, and most times people mainly use olive oil because it's the best way to store and extract the active ingredients for a very long period of time. Years. So this is calendula, which has got amazing skin healing and beautifying properties. So for marks and stuff like that, you would use calendula. Then this is centella. Now centella is used for bites and scrapes and stings because it kind of draws out the sting and the bite, and then it heals the skin also. Really good healing properties. And this is also just comfrey oil. So I'm going to put a little of the comfrey oil in, but I want to use the raw plant as well, just so that I can show you how to do that. And then this is plantain. Now plantain is also a very good herb. It grows wild almost everywhere. You get two different types of plantain. You get a broadleaf plantain and a narrowleaf plantain. Plantain you can also use for respiratory issues, but mainly you would use it for skin, any types of skin issues. Plantain. And then a little bit of lavender essential oils. Lavender also has healing properties. And then I would add everything together. So depending on how much you want to make, I'm not going to make a lot, I'm just going to make a little to show you. Oh, I need a spoon. Okay, so that's a handful, that's about 2.5 cups. So if you don't use a microwave, you can then use a double boiler. So that basically is this type of concept that you have going here. So you have a pot with hot water in, and then in there you would either have a jug or another pot with your whatever it is that you are melting. This you normally use for melting purposes. It's called the double boiler method. So it would be ideal if the water is boiling so that it can melt the stuff sufficiently, but this will be able to melt enough for us to use. Otherwise, we're just making a liquid salt today. Okay, so this we're going to just heat. It's just a little melted. How was it clear? Okay, so those are the actives we're going to add, and then this is called the pestle and mortar, and this is what you normally grind things in. Ladies who use a lot of spices use this often. So I want to take some of this. And I'm going to cut it as finely as possible so that it makes the grinding easier. So different recipes have different amounts that you use. Normally you would use about a spoon. Okay. Liquid. Okay, so this you would then grind to squeeze out the active ingredients, but also you want to puncture it as much as possible so that the active ingredients are exposed to be using the actual plant in there as well. So that's just what we are doing now. Okay, so with dry herbs and so forth, you can grind it into a really fine powder. So it depends on what it is that you are busy grinding. So now it looks like this is a moist, pulpy mush. Okay, so that's it all out. Now let's putting in as is. Okay, then I just want to put a few drops of the tea tree oil. 3 drops. Lavender. 2 drops. Try and get as small a spoon as possible. Because this oil is quite potent. So we're just doing a small spoon, which normally would be like a 1/4 teaspoon. It's about this much.
So sorry, what is that?
This is plantain. So all of these have wound healing, skin regenerative properties, beautifying. This is calendula. This is comfrey. And this is the centella.
What is that, sorry?
Centella. All of these herbs you can grow yourself. And then you will mix it. No, I don't think we're going to use the wax today. It's not good.
And if you melt it in a little
I'm just trying to break this up. You want to mix it really well. And then you pour it into your container. So normally these mishaps happen when you are busy. So you need to understand how to alternate what to do in place of if this doesn't work, what else can you do? Sometimes you need all the ingredients for what it is you want to achieve, but most times you can do without this or without that. So you can still do an ointment without beeswax. It will just be very little. And then you will pour, wait till, okay, if there was beeswax it would solidify, but this doesn't have beeswax, so we would then, and that you put on whatever wound you have, because there's some talent in there, you can use it for stings, for bites, mosquito bites, or flea bites, any type of bite, that's what you can use it for. It throws out the toxin. And then the wound healing will continue. So that is basically how you make your wound. But if you don't have any of this, and you maybe only have one of these plants, or you maybe only have tea tree oil, or you maybe only have onion, grate the onion, use some of the juice, put it in some Vaseline, and then put it on for emergencies. So there's always little ways to use what you have around you. The main thing is to be sustainable so that you can identify what to use to still get the job done. There's always a way. Okay, thank you so much. Any questions? No?
Will you be able to give us copies?
We'll see how the whole